All right, in this video, we are going to look at a bunch of questions from the Math 92 course review. And there's a bunch of questions. I'm going to give you a sort of how to do each question. I may not finish every one of them, but just give you an idea. So the first question says slope-intercept equation. So that has to be something like y equals mx plus b. So if they give you 2 points, the first thing you can do is you find the slope. To find the slope, you'd use this formula. And once you find the slope, it won't be 0, sorry. Once you find the slope, then I can plug it into this equation at the top. So maybe I'll just do it quick. So say 7 minus 0 over negative 2 minus 2. So it'd be 7 over negative 4 or negative 7/4. So if that's your slope, then I can plug it into this equation up here, y equals mx plus b. Instead of the m, I'm putting a negative 7/4 x plus b. Now to finish the equation, because I need to figure out what b is, what I'll do is I'll take one of these points, doesn't matter which one, this is probably the easiest one, and this is an x value and that's a y value. So plug them in where x is. So I'd have negative 7/4, that's a 7 over 4, times the x value is 2, and where the y value is 0, plus b. And then I'd solve this for b. So I'd multiply negative 7/4 times 2, negative 14 over 4, negative 7 over 2, that would be, plus b equals 0. And then I'd move this to this side. So b would be a positive 7 over 2. So my equation in the end then will be y is equal to the slope, negative 7/4 x, and the b value is a positive 7 over 2. So that'd be my equation. This next one, it's an I hate fraction question. I look for a common denominator, and it looks like the common denominator is 6. This one's negative. I'd probably push that negative up to the top. On a fraction, you can put it on the bottom or the top or in the middle. It just has to be somewhere. So I'd take that negative and put it up top. Then the lowest common denominator is 6. So I'd take each term, times it by 6. And this first one, 6 times 2 is 12, divided 3 is 4. So that first term would be a 4. I think there's an x in there. So it'd be 4x. 6 times 1 is 6, divided 3 is 2. So it'd be plus 2 equals, and I'd keep doing that and then solve for x. Next question, 18. I have a triangle. It says angle C is 6 times as large as angle A. So if this is A, then C is 6 times whatever A is. And then the measure of B is 44 greater than A. So this one will be A plus 44. And they want to know the measure of all the angles. Well, I know all angles of a triangle add to 180. And so I can say A plus 44 plus 6A must be equal to 180. Collect my A's, that'd be 8A plus 44 equals 180. And then solve for A. Next question, 18. Find the zeros of the function. To do that, I'd either factor, or if you can't factor, then you have to use the quadratic formula. B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. And A would be 1, B would be a negative 9, C would be a negative 9. Plug them in and see what you come up with. Okay, to find the axis of symmetry and all of those things, you could complete the square, or you can use the vertex formula. So to find the vertex, to get the x value, you figure out what minus b over 2a is. So minus b is a negative 5 over 2 times a is 1. That's out front there. So it'll be 5 over 2. So that'll be the x value of the coordinate. It'll also be your axis of symmetry. Then you also need to determine what the y value of the coordinate is. So to figure out the y value of the coordinate, you plug this in everywhere you see an x in that function. So it'll be 5/2 squared minus 5 times 5/2 plus 10. And just figure all that stuff out, and that'll be the y coordinate of the vertex. The y-intercept is always that last number. X-intercepts, I didn't do those. X-intercepts, you'd either try and factor this function, or you would put it into the quadratic formula, and that'll give you your x-intercepts. Oh, max and min, that'll be whatever this part works out to. It's always the y value, the coordinate of the max or min. Since x squared here is positive, it means the graph goes like this. So there'd be a minimum value that it could get to. Okay, so that's sort of how to go about that one. 21. Length and width of a rectangle have a sum of 88. What's the dimensions? Give you maximum area. Okay, so area of a rectangle is length times width. And they say the length and the width have a sum of 88. So length plus width equals 88. In other words, I could solve for one of those, like solve for L. It'd be 88 minus W if I subtract W on both sides. So wherever I see an L, I can replace it with that. So over here, air is equal to 88 minus W times W. If you distribute that through, you'll get 88W minus W squared. Okay, and then I'd rewrite it so it's in the proper form. And then this one, to find a maximum area, I want to find the vertex of this. And to find the vertex of this, I do the same thing that I was doing right up there, to find the x value and the y value. Okay, for 22, it says correct end behavior given this polynomial. It's an x to the fifth, so it starts one direction and ends up going the other direction. If it's minus, it starts high, does some bounces, and goes back low. And that's all that I'm looking for in that function. Okay, question 23, x to the fourth, and they want me to graph that. First off, I would factor it. So x squared and then x squared minus 5x plus 6. Oh, and then I could factor this part. That'd be x minus 2x minus 3, and I have an x squared there. So the x-intercepts from this would be 0 and 0. There's two of them. From this would be a positive 2. From this would be a positive 3. So those are my x-intercepts. So 0 something happens, 2 something happens, and 3 something happens. I know since it's an x to the fourth, it starts high and ends high, has two bumps in there in the middle. Since this one has a multiplicity of 2, then the graph will come down, and at that point it just bounces back, goes up, comes back through here, and then back through there. That's what I'm looking for with that one. Okay, and 24, how can the graph of that be obtained from that? Well, I look at the transformations. Let's start here. That tells me that the graph has to go left 1. Then this one tells me that I have to take all the y values and multiply them by a half. In other words, it's a vertical shrink. So it's going to squish it vertically. And then this thing tells you to move the graph down 2. All right, hopefully that helps you with those couple questions.